I felt like reviewing another cartoon, so I chose Porkchop and Flatscreen, a web series by Emezie or I think that's how you say his name, I don't know. When I was like 10 or 11, I couldn't get enough of this, but my feelings have changed. I need every negative criticism of the show that I've been internalizing for the past 2 months out and in a video. So yeah, while I respect Emezie as a creator since he's made something truly impressive, that won't stop this video from being one of my most ruthless videos yet. Hope you enjoy it anyway, and if you had hard feelings, then you can have them if you want, I don't care. So, PCNF is a series about 3 girls who fight a lot. That's pretty much it, and supposedly goes deeper than that. It's of course based off of anime, as you can see from the art style, and I'm guessing Naruto because of his love for backstories, and the fact that our 2 mains are ninjas. So let's get into the actual review. The art and animation of the series is consistently high quality, though I believe the animation dips a little bit as the series goes on. Compare this fight in episode 1 to a fight in an episode that was made years later, for example. Even through a 10-year difference, the only improvement that you can see is that one is a little more cleaned up than the other. Either way, it's still all very good. I also like the music, mostly instrumentals like Toys and More on Flying High, which I can't play cause copyright. That's about all the positives I got for this series. It's visually really good with minimal amounts of animation errors. The music is pretty good and the sounds used are perfect. So every other problem lies with what's actually happening in the show. There's no overarching plot that could be found here. It's more like random events happen because one character does something that makes another angry. The most plot I can definitely identify is at the beginning when they're trying to take down Morrigan. Though that went nowhere since every character is the same afterwards. We lost and gained nothing, and Morrigan continues to be a villain to a certain extent. This can also be stated with every single arc in this. Even the one where one of our main characters fucking dies and comes back to life due to sheer willpower and determination. And also thanks to Mouse because she's a bullshit character, but I'll get into that later. Anyway, back onto the plot. The story goes totally nowhere because after every arc we reset back to normal with very minimal changes. You'd understand mostly what was happening if you decided to start on the arc where Mia fucking dies, or if you started on the one where Bobby's gender bent clone comes into existence. So pretty much it's a mix between being episodic and serialized, a mix that I really don't like. Of course some major developments happen throughout the series, like with characters' personal goals and such, but I don't think that discounts it from having a weird ass mix between episodic and being a series you have to watch from the start from the end to understand. And even then, the only character who kinda finishes her arc is Mina, since near the end she randomly stopped being a bitch to literally everyone for some reason, and that was still unsatisfying because of how it happened. Onto the unimportant characters. Generally, most PCNF characters by personality are very simple, except some are really messy like Nutt, Bobby, and Halloway. One thing in common with everyone is that they're all confusing except Mai, who for the most part I understand. This isn't really in a specific order, but I like starting with the worst first. There's a bullshit Deus Ex Machina character, and flat out worst character in this whole series. Her personality is nothing. She's the most comic relief non-serious character you could make, having all the depth of a child with ADHD. I wouldn't even describe her as nice either, she just exists. But her personality doesn't matter at all. What matters is her abilities. Let's start off with her bullshit side, when she's not being a goofy, lovable comic relief character. She's busy being the strongest character in the entire series. Take episode 2 for example, where she suddenly transforms into her moon form and effortlessly beats all of her villains easily. And she even kills Bobby. She then transforms again into her sun form because she was sad that she killed a mouse, and she resets time and displaces everyone. How fucking insane is that? Again, by episode 2, she beats all of our antagonists so far effortlessly and has 2 transformations. There's no prologue or anything here. It's just bullshit, and sometimes the powers she uses are never used again. Like, she has this one where she can make a rainbow and fucking fly, or the time thing, but she never used either of those again. They're just randomly there because Emezie doesn't know how to end a scene or resolve a conflict or something. And don't get me started on how inconsistent her abilities are, like her healing ability, where its drawback is that she takes on the injury that she healed from someone else. In some cases where she's flying with Mina because she saved her out of nowhere, she heals Mina who had multiple broken limbs, but Mouse didn't take any injury. So now that we've established that Mouse is complete bullshit, how is she Deus Ex Machina then? Well, almost every time post-Morrigan arc, if our characters are in a horrendous situation, Mouse comes in and saves them because I guess she can fucking sense if people are in danger. Naturally, the strongest character can sense when our MCs are in danger in need of saving, right at the perfect time. That's totally fine. So what this creates is the expectation that Mouse would come in and save our mains if they're in a bad place every time, which automatically destroys all tension. Though to a lesser extent, every character does that. With Mouse, it's the most egregious. Mouse can't exist in a story that's mostly serious because she destroys tension due to her bullshit ass-pull powers, ability to just sense if specifically our mains are in danger, which are characters she doesn't even know or have a reason to care about. I really have to talk about Ayane. Now, I don't really hate Ayane, but her existence is confusing. As the main character, she can, of course, fight, but her strength is inconsistent. In the beginning, she's as strong as Mai and actually beats her in episode 4. She flat out beats Morrigan, who's stronger than Mai, and she defeats Mina, who's shown to be equal to Mai, while Mina had enhanced abilities at the time. Though simultaneously, she's still weak as shown in later episodes where Mai effortlessly beats her in a fair fight. And Mai isn't using her Chara hate powers either. And this is extra confusing because in episode 4, Mai was trying her absolute best to, make sure she didn't see her phone because Mai sent her something that would completely ruin her and Bobby's relationship. This already doesn't make a lick of sense. This weird ass writing has created a character that can possibly be on the level of Morrigan, a villain that took all of Mai's ability and focus to defeat, and a villain that Mina has fought numerous times but only won once against. Both pretty powerful characters in the show. Or she could also be a character that's on the level of a civilian. This kind of shit throughout the series have been one of my biggest problems, and I haven't even touched on her relationship with Bobby. It's more so to do with Bobby's character. Outside of this, her personality is nice and pure but a little stupid at times. Certainly something that we've all seen before. Ayane is an ass character because of her inconsistent strength, making fights that should be easy or leveled, like the fight when she had with Mai on episode 23 possibly unwinnable because the writer felt like that she shouldn't win this fight, or fights like when she was trying to save Bobby, stupid because she was being bodied by the people that captured her like hours previous, and her personality is far from original. Personality wise, Mai is Sasuke, that's all. In all honesty, there isn't much to say about her other than the fact that she's an underwhelming character, as she's the most ninja can get. Nothing's too unique about her, and again, there isn't much to say about her, which is surprising because she literally escaped death, but still. And she's also technically dead. This is supposed to be our deep character, but I believe that she falls flat in her face. Emezie had a lot of opportunities to make this character begin going through a smooth change, such as in episode 3 when Bobby and Mina met. They could have became a thing or even just friends, but due to internal issues, Mina just had to forget about Bobby, even though later she still cares a lot about him. Make up your mind, man. I can let it slide because it's early in the series and the start of her character, and this sort of characterizes her in a way I see, but not the many other times that she acts in a similarly distant way throughout the entire series. I know that she's supposed to be like this because she's deep and she's supposed to be the dynamic character, but really, she stays pretty much the same throughout the entire series. The whole schlock about nobody loves me and what, I don't need friends really gets on my nerves at times, because what Ayane said in episode 21 was very true. She could have been going through an arc that changes her character slowly or just throughout the entire series, and the obvious relationship pick over Ayane and Bobby would have been her and Bobby, which would help her change and help her become more open to others that want to be cool with her by at least episode 10 or 18 or so. Or maybe if Mia treated her a bit differently in the story. Her character is basically being denied the ability to change, even though she desperately needs one throughout the series, and for her not to make us see her as an annoying bitch at some point. And her character conclusion is rushed if I'm being nice. Ass if I'm being honest. She beats her most recent antagonist, Goose, with the helps of Ayane and Mai, who by the way come out of nowhere and had no clue what Mina was doing. And after some small self-evaluation, suddenly they're friends, even though throughout the entire series, all Mina's relationships with the two have been iffy at best. I believe that Mina could have been a really good character, and I like the idea of her starting off in this series as someone who's sad fed up with the world, even though I'd like a little backstory on that. But if you continue the majority of the series with her being that character, a character that should be slowly changing into a better person as the series goes on, she just ends up being annoying. And God, I'd rather she stays how she was than suddenly becoming friends with Mai, a character who she believes betrayed her and made her feel worthless, and Ayane, the person who she believes is the stem of every single issue in her life. This sort of internal conflict could have only been one that slowly gets resolved throughout the entire series, but Emezie messed it up, and when he realized, he rushed out a character conclusion that should have been built up slowly. Morrigan is one of the lamest characters. She just appears to be evil for no reason, though she has a past that's revealed outside of the series. So at this time, I don't know exactly what it is, and the only piece you get to Morrigan's past is when she was a child, near all the cages or whatever. I don't even know how to describe her personality, honestly. It's just evil, and one weird ass trait I've observed is that she likes it when her genitals get crushed. Pretty damn weird, but it's a minor and unnecessary quirk to a character. Nutt is one of my favorite characters. Personality-wise, he's unapathetic and a troublemaker that'll do anything to screw with people or kill Bobby. And Nutt's a really fun character to watch whenever he's on screen just because of how different he is in comparison to everyone else. And the things he says and does are really funny, especially if you're watching an episode with subtitles like the earlier ones, like episode 4 or 2. But I do have a few problems with him, because like every male character, Nutt gets pretty much no screen time and he's consistently disrespected no matter what. Firstly, the lost potential. Nutt has this cool power where if he bleeds, his skin hardens, and it creates weapons. An ability that should be powerful and a threat, but this does nothing for him during fights. Not once has his hard skin made it difficult for a character to hurt him. Plus, his ability to shoot deadly projectiles if his blood sprays should be overpowered. But no, he always gets bodied in fights, and this saddens me because Nutt could make a really good villain, even if it was just for an arc, like Goose or something. If anything, Nutt's only treated as a minor annoyance, even though with these overpowered abilities, he should be on the level of at least start a series Ayane or Mina. But the reason he's not a more important character has to do with our most messy character, inadvertently, Bobby. Oh, Bobby, our most screwed up, disrespected, and underutilized character in this entire series, even down to his personality. At times, Bobby can be really caring and nice, like in the middle of the series, specifically post Morrigan through pre-demon arc, but at other times, he's straight up a bad boy lone wolf type of guy, like in the start of the series or when he grew demon wings. It makes it difficult to actually understand what Bobby's truly like, and this feeling's exemplified when you throw in the smallest yet most problematic thing for 3 characters in the series, Bobby and Ayane's relationship. How surprising, a relationship that started purely because of blackmail isn't a good one. Yet throughout the show, Bobby wants to stay with Ayane to make her happy. Even though deep down in his heart he really loves Mina as revealed by Halloway. And this really began giving me horrendous feelings when Ayane found out that the relationship was fake. Bobby still said that he'd stay in the relationship to make her happy. To me, this can mean 2 things. Bobby is just such a nice guy that he's willing to compromise his chance to pursue a relationship that he'd actually be happy with, or he views Ayane as so pathetic, so weak, that she'd get no one, ever, and because of how he views her, he sees what he's doing as something that he has to do. Either way, it's horrible, and this weird-ass relationship should have dissolved right there and then, but no, Ayane still likes Bobby, and Bobby still is dating Ayane. Absolutely horrible. And while watching this whole fucking botched relationship shit going down, Mina is in the back with a character that can't be improved because she feels like everyone doesn't care about her, just as she felt in the start of the series, and just how she feels 20 fucking episodes later. This one relationship is one of the major problems of the entire series because it puts one of our main characters in this light of possibly being a fucked up guy, one in the state of being unable to change, and one in the state of being a simple dumbass who'd fall for any guys because they're physically attractive. And that's literally all this relationship is based off of. Ayane just finds Bobby to be very physically attractive. There are never any deep moments that Ayane and Bobby share. Hell, Mina and Bobby gain more chemistry together in episode 3, one episode, more than Bobby and Ayane throughout the entire series. And honestly, I like Mina and Bobby way more. The stupid surface level relationship is horrendous, and everything about it is toxic to how it happened, to when Ayane found out it was fake, to even its effects on other characters. I haven't even gotten into Bobby himself yet, and you can already see that he has some problems. About his underutilization, Bobby, like Nutt, has a very interesting ability. He actually has 2, his normal wings and his demon wings. With his normal wings, he can obviously fly fast, but they also acted as a good defense and possibly a good weapon. Sort of an opposite to Nutt's high defense and slow speed, and his demon wings can provide a perfect defense automatically without him even trying. And if we're looking at what GB genderbent Bobby can do, they also function as a weapon. Sadly, we don't see much of this because most screen time Bobby has is him getting his balls crushed, I am dead ass, him carrying someone, or him getting his ass beat. Not to mention his incredibly interesting backstory with Nutt. So many questions can be asked about either character in this aspect. Firstly, how did Bobby become an angel, and how did Nutt become a demon? How did they know each other previously, how far back does it go, and why exactly do they want to kill each other are all questions you could ask. But in the series, none of this is answered because, again, the male characters get no screen time, and honestly, that right there could be an entire arc itself. Just a few episodes, like 4 or 5, detailing the past of the 2 will be a good watch, and to bring more insight into the 2 characters and make me, care about them more. And I know, my questions are probably answered in some other sub-series or other small animation Emezie made, but I only watched PCNF's original series, because if you want to make a series, someone should be able to understand all the important bits about it without having to look into other things unless it's a sequel. In short, Bobby's issues are complicated since he's a messy and problematic character that had potential due to his possibly interesting backstory and abilities. He's a character that couldn't shine because his story favors giving the women of the series more screen time than the men who have equally interesting lives and backstories. Bobby, Nutt, and Halloway are all sad cases, and for Halloway, he's probably the saddest case. Honestly, I thought he was really cool because his motives remain unknown and he was a neutral character. And a neutral character with unknown motives isn't like everyone in the series, though that neutrality was questioned when he was revealed to be directly related to Morrigan's antics. Either way, the worst thing he does is try to break up Ayane and Bobby, which would have been a good thing honestly, but then he just disappears after Ayane saves Bobby. My guess is that Emezie didn't know what to do with this character, that he possibly felt became too convoluted due to his involvement with Morrigan, his unknown motives, and his insane amount of power as displayed when he defeated Mouse's moon form, until she did some stupid bullshit. So instead of keeping him around as a fun little background character that caused mischief, a role that would have fit him well, Emezie just evaporated him from existence, and it's super noticeable. Halloway was always messing with the characters when he was in existence, but him being gone is simply weird. And again, this has to do with the show preferring to show female characters over male ones, though that was changing when Bobby's brother or dad or whatever became an important character. In the end, Halloway was fun, but he was removed for maybe being confusing. If you're like me, a person who cares a lot about if a series has a good story that consistently makes sense, then this show isn't for you. I have many problems with the writing of the series, but I've condensed them down into 4 points. It's like a sequel, nobody changes, random shit happens, and the target audience is confusing. Starting with its sequel-esque nature. This section won't last too long, as most issues I listed I already talked about in my character analysis section. For many characters, the question of why are they acting like this is never answered. Why do Bobby and Nutt hate each other? Why is Mina the way she is? Who actually is Morrigan? Big questions like these aren't ever answered within the series, and instead we're left with characters acting in certain ways for no reason, and rarely, fucking rarely, minuscule hints as to why they're like this. It'd be like if DBZ started in a Cell Saga, and when Goku goes Super Saiyan he gets flashbacks of fighting Frieza, or if Naruto Shippuden was the absolute starting point of Naruto, and we got split-second flashbacks of I never watched Shippuden, but in both cases, we're missing incredibly important information pertaining to how the characters are doing what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing, or why they're the way they are. If this series started off earlier, like the start of high school for all these characters for example, then it wouldn't feel as if I was supposed to watch something before I watched this. In fact, the story is so confusing that Emezie makes summaries of what happens in each episode in the description. If I had to read the summary instead of watching what happens in the episode to understand what actually happened and what significance the episode holds, then I think the writing might be a little whack. Not I think, I know, goddammit. Don't just have 2 characters that are creatures from 2 different afterlives on Earth, an obvious abnormality, evidenced by how Bobby hides his wings, hate each other, and expect us not to ask questions. Don't show us the antagonist of episode 1 preparing to jump off of a bridge when previously we learned nothing about her, and don't just show us like less than second snippets of our main antagonist's childhood backstory that turned her into what she is today. All this does is make us ask questions that we expect the answers to, but we never get any. Now look, I know that most of the questions are probably answered in other sub-series that Emezie made. Again, I should be able to watch the entire actual main series and understand everything important about the characters and story instead of going to some spin-off series and search for some answers. Despite all the shit the characters go through, they're pretty much the same personality-wise from episode 1 to the latest episode. As a story that's meant to be taken seriously, I assume at this point, I'd also expect it to have dynamic characters that grow as the story progresses, but no. Characters that absolutely should have changed as the series went on, like Mia and Bobby if he had a bigger role, and in Bobby's case, he remains a confusing, messy limbo of a character, and Mia, who is literally Sasuke throughout the entire story. Ayane is really the only character that I'd be fine with being a flat character because of her personality, which contrasts Mia, and because of the role that she feels as a light comic relief, I believe. And Mina, man, I've already detailed her character and what's wrong with it earlier. Shit in this series will happen for no reason. Like the most top of my head example I can give is when Mouse turned into Mina's mom, who was fucking dead by the way, and was watching Mina this whole time. Totally nonsensical. This was Mina's arc in a way, you know, the arc where she changes characters. Again, Mina should have been changing slowly throughout the entire series instead of this one arc where her stupid asshole bully gang that I'm more than sure that we're supposed to hate is taken over by someone who's worse by comparison. Totally fine with Goose's character by the way. I see nothing wrong with her because she doesn't have a deep connection with any other character and she served the role as a fun antagonist. But anyway, my other big grievance with the show is that I've already talked about this earlier with Mouse, but characters will appear out of nowhere to save another. Even antagonists that are just pure evil like Morrigan. Ayane will consistently come in and save her if Mia is on the brink of killing her. I suppose you could say that it's to show off how good of a person Ayane is, but to me that's bold. Morrigan was the cause of Ayane's father's death, and Ayane knows this. So it's either, yeah, Ayane is just that good of a person, or this was just a thing so that Morrigan can be reused in the future, and I feel like it's definitely the latter. This is easily the biggest problem in the entire series, the comedy. The comedy of the show is incredibly repetitive. Pretty much, someone's genitals will be hurt in some way, and you are left to laugh. The extreme emphasis on people's balls, lady balls, pussies, tits being crushed make me feel really gross while watching this. Like, I'm really not supposed to be seeing what I see, especially because a lot of interactions the female characters in the show have is comparing how big their tits or asses are before a fight. And every fight, the only two places the characters will attack is the pussy and tits. It's fucking weird. It's weird. They could attack literally anywhere else, but they don't every time for comedy's sake. They must attack the groin and chest, but why? It's so repetitive, and it honestly feels juvenile. Even the humor that only women would understand is so repetitive that the jokes would probably get old within 5 episodes of watching the show. And what really pains me is that Emezie could totally be funny, as I saw with the subtitles and with some of the episodes where he actually has subtitles and words. But there's a bigger issue with this entire series that I have yet to mention. One that hinders my understanding and has no purpose to be in the series in the first place. This show, instead of any kind of rational normal show, chooses to use images to convey what's going on instead of text. Meaning that in this show that's supposed to be treated seriously, you lose the ability to convey complex messages and a lot of deepness that your story could have had. I get it, you want the show to be interpreted by any audience, anywhere, any age, even though this is clearly targeted towards adults. But oh my god, I don't think this was a good idea for a story that's deep and meant to be taken seriously. In fact, if this story had consistently used conventional text dialogue, the backstories that needed to be there but are never addressed, like Nutt and Bobby's hatred for each other, why Mina is so depressed at the start, Morgan's past, Halloway's possible connections to Morgan, more establishment on how the afterlife of the series works, who the hell the Reaper is to Rena, who the hell the Grim Reaper is, and just so many other things I could list would be solved in simple, like, text dialogue that people could have had. They literally could have had like a few sentences for every single character just mentioning, you know, all these things and what's up with them. And if you're paying attention to the specific words I was saying, I did indeed mean to say consistently. The writer of the show inconsistently uses this way of dialogue as evidenced by the backstories which use text English. And post episode 23 they just flat out use the English like most of the time. It makes no sense to have your cake and eat it too. Just go with either one, and obviously for this kind of story the better option would have been to go with normal text. It's all worth it to tell a good story while sacrificing your ability for it to be understood by everyone in the whole world, in my opinion. I don't recommend this show. The characters are bad, the story's confusing, and the elements of it are unanswered. Don't let its incredible high quality of animation and fine music fool you, because this show is a dumpster fire. Keep going, Porkchop and Flatscreen. I won't support you, but in another few years, I'll come back to rewatch it and see if it got any better.